Hello to anyone who may or may not watch. Well, that wouldn't make sense if you weren't watching. Anyways, I felt inspired to go live today because I was going to make a video. There's been a lot of stuff coming through and a lot of things I've been wanting to talk about and meaning to talk about, but I have a hard time making videos and then editing them and all that. So I'm just jumping on here to talk about some of the Virgo energies. So I figure anyone who happens to see this video and come across it, maybe there's a message in here for you. But I wanted to mostly talk about some of this Virgo energy because I feel like there's a lot going on right now. So hello, everybody. Yesterday was a new moon. You may have caught Matt and I going live. And some of you stayed for a little while and seemed to enjoy it. And a lot of people have been resonating with the last video, or one of the last reels I posted. Got like 84 shares or something, which means 84 people felt a connection to it and sent it to somebody. So that's why I wanted to talk more about the body, because Virgo rules the body. And this is the last of it's the last sun sign of the first 6 sun signs in astrology, which are all about inner work and the self. So when we are in Virgo season, the body is highlighted. Our relationship to it is highlighted because we just got out of Leo season, which was fire energy, which is the sun. There's a lot of solar energy and a lot of creative energy. So I feel like the sacral center, which is your sexuality center and your creative center, is really active right now. And we may have been activated by some of the light codes and the high frequency energies that came through during the Lionsgate portal on August 8th. Because I know for me personally, and what seems to be the case for a lot of other people, at least in my general vicinity, was that there was a lot of energy and activity during Leo season, and then at some point right around or right before the retrograde, it just like dropped. And I believe that is because we were integrating that Lionsgate portal energy. So whenever we have these portals, and really every month, the sun and stars emit neutrinos. Neutrinos are subatomic particles that travel faster than the speed of light. And about 70% are from the sun and the atmosphere, or the stars, and I think Jupiter maybe even emits some as well. But either way, they are, traveling faster than the speed of light, and then they're being absorbed through our DNA. They pass through planetary bodies and then person to person, and we're just absorbing a ton of them. And this is also connected to human design, which may not be as popular as things like astrology or tarot, but it is one of the things I teach, and it's something that I discovered in 2021. It's only been around since 1987 when Ra-Uru-Hu, I think I said his name right, when he discovered it. But they actually were able to prove the existence of neutrinos in 2015. They won a Nobel Peace Prize for it. I don't know if it was in connection with Ra-Uru-Hu, but that was just reading that in 2015 they won a Nobel Peace Prize. So seems pretty legit to me, right? And at least for me, the first time I had my human design chart read, I cried because it made things make sense for me finally. I always knew that I was empathic, or an emotional sponge, because I've always been really affected by my environment and people around me, and good at picking up on energy, bad with boundaries, but I learned that I have an open emotional solar plexus center, which is like a true definition of the word empath, because that's your emotions, which means you amplify emotional energy, and you pick it up from other people, whereas other people with a defined emotional solar plexus center, their emotions are steady, but it's steady in a wave. So people with a defined emotional solar plexus center will have periods of happiness and then sadness and happiness and sadness, and it's more of a cycle, versus people who have open centers. They're designed to amplify energy. So they walk into a room of sad people and then they can pick up on that and maybe they amplify it. They're walking in a room with a fight and they're picking up on that angry energy, so they can amplify that as well. And that's not me saying don't take personal accountability for your emotions, because I'm not saying that at all. It's very important that we all take personal accountability. What I'm saying is that it's very important to be mindful of our environment, and also when you're around high, heavy emotional energy, to step away and create physical distance, because the human auric field is like bigger than my arms. It's I think for most people, it's like something like 12 feet or something, which means that when you're sharing an apartment wall with somebody, if you're head to head, and you don't even have to be, yes, there's a physical wall separating you, but your energy field is larger than that. So you can pick up on thought forms, you can pick up on frequencies, you can pick up on emotions. That's why some people might be more sensitive to energy when they're living in the city, especially during full moons and some of these energetic portals. So like eclipses, which we are entering into eclipse season right now. So that is happening. But human design seems like an important topic to bring up during Virgo season, especially with the influx of energies that came from the Lionsgate portal. Leo is a fire sign. It's the second fire sign of the zodiac. Aries is the first one, which is also the first sign of the zodiac new year. And Aries is about self-expression. It's like recreating our own identity. So if you think back to March and April, what were you doing back then? How were you recreating yourself? Did you decide on a new direction or reinvent yourself in some way? I know I did. Then we move into Taurus season, which is end of April and May. That is about finding the resources that we need in order to support our identity that we created during Aries season. Then we move on to Gemini, which is the third sign of the zodiac, which is about finding the right connections and the right community to support you and who you're becoming. Then we move on to Cancer season, which was June and July, and that's the first water sign of the zodiac. So we're literally cleaning out our energy fields in preparation for the next cycle, which is Leo, which begins the fire, earth, air, water cycle. But in order to progress into this newer version of ourselves, because Leo is the ego, so it's kind of like round 2 of reinventing yourself in some way, but Leo rules the heart. So Leo season asks us to really take a look at what's inside our heart, but first we had to do that during Cancer season. So in Cancer season, we were looking at what's in our heart and what emotions may be stuck in our energy field. Last year, during the 777 portal on July 7th of last year, 2023, that was a really highly energetic time where a lot of people had psychic gifts that were activated, because last year was a number 7 year. 7 years are about spiritual isolation or spiritual reflection. So a lot of people were choosing sides, so to say, and that was really activated during Cancer season. So flash forward to this year, now we have the 888 portal, because this year is number 8 year. 8 is about reaping karmic rewards. It can be about changing directions, but it's also about manifestation. So manifestation of what did you start in year number 1, which is 2017. I know for me personally, I had a huge spiritual awakening that year. It was also the year I really leaned into not drinking. I started my sober journey in 2016 at like midway through during Cancer season, ironically enough. And 2017 is when I really got serious about my sobriety and really committed myself to a program and quit drinking, and then eventually quit smoking and learned about codependency, and then quit all those things one by one thing at a time. So anyways, think back to what you may have started in 2017, because it could be, this is part of a bigger cycle that we're coming back around to right now. Something that you started back then was preparing you for this moment right now, especially this cycle, the year number 1 through number 9. So next year is the number 9 year. That's going to be 2025. It's also a hugely significant year because Neptune is moving into Aries, and Neptune is a planet that stays in one sign for like 300 years or something. So it's never been in Aries in our lifetime. Also, Neptune is about Pisces, and Pisces is about giving your power away to other people. Pisces is about worshiping things outside of yourself, whether that's a job, money, a relationship, religious figures, etc. And then it's moving into Aries on March 30th, 2025, shortly after the election. And it should be interesting because Aries is the god of war. And Aries, there's always higher polarity and higher frequency energies, and then lower frequency energies as well. So those higher frequencies of Aries are about stepping into your role as a leader, stepping up in your community, where you need to be selfish in a healthy way, like putting on your own oxygen mask first versus giving it to somebody else. Because if you put somebody else's on before yours, you're going to die, and then you're not going to be of service to anybody. But the negative traits of Aries are if you are, how do I say this? lower traits of Aries are just like selfishness to the extreme and narcissism to the extreme and me. It's all about me. And we're seeing that a lot collectively, especially like on social media and stuff. At least I'm seeing it. So I'm an artist, and a lot of artists have an ego, and sometimes it's a healthy ego. But I don't know, sometimes it's not a healthy ego, and sometimes it's just like, look at me for the sake of looking at me without really, I don't want to say not providing value, but because I think everybody provides value. But an example of this is like when you ask people, like, it's like people who are obsessed with becoming famous. And it's like, why are you obsessed with becoming famous? Most people can't answer that. Or if they do answer that, it's because they want to be rich or they want to buy a bunch of cars. But why? And then if you keep asking why and you keep tracing back, it's interesting. I've found an interesting experience. Found this to be an interesting experiment, because a lot of people, when you ask them, like, why do you want to be famous? Why do you want to be rich? It's like, just so they can have things. And oftentimes that is rooted back to a self-esteem wound, or childhood trauma. And it's, unresolved childhood trauma makes us crave external validation. So that's why a lot of people are chasing fame and they want to be influencers, etc. So, especially during Leo season, because that's when, Leo naturally wants to be center stage. Leo naturally wants that stage time. Leo is also a really creative energy, and it's a very courageous energy, and it's a very generous energy. But the dark side of Leo is narcissism, authoritative behavior, selfishness, and stubbornness. So we just moved past that energy. Now we're in Virgo season. So Virgo season is back to an earth sign. So whatever we found out about ourselves in Leo season, now we're being asked to create systems and structure and organization so we can like root ourselves into the physical world and prepare for the second half of the zodiac year, which begins in Libra season, which is October, which just so happens to be eclipse season. Eclipse season and eclipse energy lasts 3 to 6 months. And oftentimes are connected back to larger cycles. I actually have not looked on my astrology sites to see what this one in particularly is connected to, so I'll do a video on that soon when I make sure I'm giving you the right information. But just in general, eclipses can be connected to an eclipse that happened back in 2020 or back in, I thought we said in our video last night, I think it might be connected to something around 2008. I'm pretty sure. But I might be wrong, so don't hold me to that, and I'll do another video talking about that. Anyway, so we're approaching another eclipse cycle. Right now, Virgo is the last sign of the first 6 zodiac signs, the first half, so right before the fall equinox too. Virgo is asking us again, like I said, to like clear out anything in the body. So this is a time to be mindful of what you're putting in your body. This is a time to pay attention to structure and routine. Don't overwork yourself. Sleep if you need to, especially during this new moon. And there, one of the things that's been coming up a lot is sleep. A lot of people seem to have trouble sleeping lately, and I have an alternative explanation for that. First off, I don't want to make it sound like I'm not, like I don't trust doctors or anything, but some doctors think that they're God, and they're not. And I believe, at least in my experience, like it's very important to get second opinions on things if the first opinion doesn't resonate with you. So we're paying attention to the body and the emotions in the body. If you go to the doctor, for example, and you have something like, you know how you go to the doctor and you like wait in line, you've got like a pain in your neck, and they're like, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be that. Like, well, let's go run some more tests. Let's go blah, blah, blah. So they don't know a lot of the time either until they run more tests. And then sometimes some doctors are more conservative and they want to jump straight into surgery. Other doctors are better with that, and they may take a wait and see approach. But my point is, you're in charge of your health. You're in charge of your energy field. You're the only one who has power to clear out your energy field and pay attention to your diet and to your mental health and to how much sleep you're getting and to whether or not you're overworking, whether or not you're in a healthy environment or not. that's all on you. And a lot of doctors don't ask that. Another thing that has been coming up for me a lot in like readings and stuff and in my close social circle is our relationships with substances. Alcohol in particular, because alcohol dulls your spiritual connection. And an example of this, alcohol and so does weed. And I know, don't kill me, don't shoot the messenger. Weed it can be positive or negative. It's not bad inherently in itself. But when we use it in a dependent way, aka we need it every single day, or we're doing it all day, every day, then it becomes a dependency. So we have to examine with any kind of plant medicine, what are our intentions behind that? Because plant medicines are going to amplify wherever those intentions are. And a lot of people are just doing it because they're bored, or they're, whatever the reason, because it's around and they're not really being super intentional about it. Maybe it's to sleep. But, there's also something to be said about our tolerance levels, like our tolerance for drugs and alcohol, and really anything will eventually go up. So we're going to eventually, with anything, healthy or not, like your body wants to stay in homeostasis, and it is used to relying on those substances or whatever at a certain time of day. But anyways, I want to show you something. Look. I had my aura read at a psychic fair in 2017. You see how it's indigo around and it's like purple by my face, and then it's you see like some white in there, which were my spirit guides supposedly, and then all the aquamarine energy is heart center energy. She told me it's because I help people from the heart and that I have a guardian angel. So I had another friend come and get their aura read with me back in 2017, and at the time that person was smoking a lot of weed, and when they got their aura read, their aura was red, but they had a lot of brown and black around their aura. And the reader said, when you have a lot of brown and black in your auric field, it's because you have, that's how they can tell if somebody's dependent on drugs or alcohol or not, because it creates tears and holes in the auric field. And we are such sensitive, energetic beings. We are like radios. And there's spirits all around us. I know this sounds crazy and everybody's gonna want to hear this, but some of you can see them. Some of you have had experiences with them, especially when you were younger. Some of you have, I know a lot of people who have had experiences, especially closer to like the reservation or like Indian reservations, and especially in places like Arizona where there's strong spiritual activity because of the ley lines here. So that stuff is real. Even if you've never personally experienced it, other people have. So, but again, to each their own. And I guess if you're not paying attention and you're not into it, then maybe that's not your path to explore or whatever. But for those who are sensitive to it and who do believe in it, it's important to be mindful with substances in our relationship to them. So especially if you're empathic and sensitive, and one of the ways you can figure that out, well, I mean, everybody is to some degree, but we have different levels and different areas where we're psychic or not. And that's where human design comes in, because human design talks about the auric field, the energetic bodies, the chakra system, the gates of astrology, and I Ching with the hexagrams. There's so much to human design. But my point with it is that we all have open and closed, or open and defined centers in our energy field. So any place that we have an open center is where we amplify energy, aka where we have spaces where, those things that we can't see, like, have a chance to feed on our energy if we're not mindful about where we're giving it to. And a lot of these astral beings feed on the lower level emotions like fear and sadness and grief. And we can stay stuck there. So people, like, when you don't meditate and a lot of people are walking around unconscious because, like, they don't have that natural connection and they haven't worked to develop it. And, like, I think to some degree, maybe we all have some kind of, connection is, and especially, the AA books talks about it. I always liked that part in the book where it says, even when I was agnostic, and I didn't believe in God, I still felt connection when I was standing out there in nature. And I was the same way. I just didn't know how to connect to God or a higher power. But when I got sober, it was like a huge, if you really think about what alcohol is doing to you, alcohol, the reason I drank was because I liked the effect of like not being in control and like the black curtain coming down, and then you just kind of like fade from your body and you're just like, oh, what did I do when I'm drunk? It's funny. But yeah, it's all fun and games until you kill somebody, or until you crash a car, or until you sleep with an ex-boyfriend for the 15th time after you said you're not to, and then you're left with, a disease or an unwanted pregnancy, or, something that is, equally as heartbreaking. So I'm just saying we don't make the best decisions when we're drunk. Yet it's something that everybody does. It's something that's thrown in our faces. It's something that society pushes on us. It's something that you feel weird about when you go out with your friends and they're like, why are you not drinking? It's weird. But if you read a can of beer, it says on there, like, it causes, may cause, I don't know if it says brain damage. I don't know if that's the right words, but basically it does destroy your brain in the long run, and alcohol is a depressant. So first of all, Virgo season is a great time to consider your relationship with that. And not only just that, but like weed, and not to kill it for anybody, but they just did come out with a lot of studies that weed was, a lot of the dispensary weed is just unregulated and doesn't pass the standards for how many pesticides are in there. It's like, I don't know, some of them were in the most popular brands. I think Stizzy and Alien Lab. I don't know. I don't really know those brands, but even a lot of the rolling papers, just like 60 times the normal level of pesticides. And I just find it interesting, because my relationship with alcohol and weed was a lot worse, 7 or 8 years ago before I first got sober. But at one point in 2014, which is during a big eclipse portal, ironically, I was actually just looking that up the other day, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because during that eclipse and sometime in 2013, 2014, that's when I started to think to myself, maybe I should stop drinking. But back then it was like not something that I could do alone. I could stay home for 30 days and not drink, but the second I went out with friends and was around it and it was shoved in my face, I succumbed to peer pressure and didn't want to be the odd man out. So then I would drink, and then I feel guilty about it. And I never knew how to stay stopped. And then I still used it as relief because I didn't have any other tools to deal with my unresolved trauma, my low self-esteem, or the fact that I was working at a job that was just leaving me feeling burnt out, which it seems to be the case for a lot of people. And when we're so human design, to go back to that, I was talking about the sacral energy center earlier, and your sacral center is like by the belly button. It controls, it's your sexual energy center as well as your creativity. So what's happening, when we choose sexual partners that are not in alignment with our spiritual values or our emotional values for that matter, or mental values for that matter, it becomes an energy drain. So not only can these lower level astral beings feed on that and feed on our suffering, it keeps us stuck in these karmic loops. So you might notice in your life, like, especially if you're sexually active and you're, especially like for the young people who are like on Tinder and a lot of dating apps, and it's just like we're, going through swiping and just, doing anybody who gives you attention essentially. And we're creating these energetic bonds and cords with multiple partners, and then wondering why we're feeling drained. And then it's pushed on us on social media. Every dude's feed I know is filled with half naked girls. And again, nothing wrong with nudity. I'm very sex positive, and I think the body should be celebrated. But I think people are celebrating it in ways that are detrimental to their emotional and spiritual health. There's a lot of people who are addicted to substances and sex, and if they're being honest with themselves, they're not happy. And that's why they, need that validation from others, and they need to keep filling the void, and they can't sit alone by themselves, and they rely on these substances to get through their day. But wouldn't it be amazing if you were so happy that you didn't have to rely on those things, especially in an economy where that shit is expensive? It's expensive for all of that, because if you have a sex addiction, there's your sexual health to worry about, and doctor's bills and medication and all that should anything happen. There's also Alcohol has tons of long-term health problems, not to mention if you get a DUI or that kind of negative consequence from it, or God forbid, are behind a wheel and, get sued because you hit somebody or something like that. And then weed drains your energy as far as typically makes you more tired, which for some people might be good because they have problems sleeping. But also it can kind of drain us and leave us feeling unmotivated and just like okay with the status quo. And it's okay to be okay and content, and that's good because it's a much better place to be than depression. But there's a lot of things that are happening this time on the planet, and a lot of people, it's like the running joke of our generation, these millennials and Gen X and Gen Z is like, everything sucks, the apocalypse is coming, and let's just make a meme about it. Let's not actually do anything about it because we got bills to pay, so we have to work 3 jobs to make it work, or we're living with roommates or an ex-partner that's domestically abusing us because we don't have family that we can rely on and we can't afford rent, so we have to go back to that abusive partner. There's a lot of, I don't know, things that don't sit well with me, and I'm not trying to be negative, and I hate being negative. If anything, I'm probably more of an eternal optimist, as I've been called. But I feel for people who are stuck in these karmic cycles or depression, because I spent so much time in AA, and I would watch these brilliant, creative, amazingly kind and generous people die because they were addicted to substances, and accidents happen, or they were just so depressed that they end up taking their own life. And a lot of that is due to our conditioning. Not only is it just like pushed on us, and everybody around us is doing it, we don't really know or think too much about the long-term effects of it. And I honestly wasn't planning on coming on here to talk about substances, but since we're talking about Virgo and we're talking about the body, that's probably one of the big things that is affecting a lot of people. Because even if you don't drink daily, all that binge drinking is so bad for your brain in the long run. I didn't know any of that until I went to AA, and I followed an ex of mine to multiple rehab centers and sat in the meeting thinking I had no problem because I just drank casually. And then I realized I was suffering from a lot of the same problems, and I drank a lot like the supposed alcoholics. And then I learned all about how alcohol is a depressant, but when you drink it faster, you get more of like a high and energizing effect. But when you drink it slower, it makes you tired. So most people are drinking it fast and they're doing shots, etc. But it's like, I remember the feeling I used to chase with alcohol was like the void, and I used to refer to it as the void. I have this void inside of me. I was all dramatic about it because I'm an artist and a poet, and I'd be like, I'm just trying to fill the void. And I never knew that was actually a common thing. A lot of people feel that void. And another interesting thing about it is because when you're drinking, you're literally giving control of your body and your auric field away to whatever spirit, that's why they call it spirits, to whatever spirit is willing to drive it in that moment. That's why there's angry drunks and there's happy drunks and there's slutty drunks and there's fun drunks and everything in between. And I need to take a break because I'm talking fast, so hold on. Okay, so there was a void inside of me when I was drinking, because what's happening when you drink the alcohol is like you get that, I don't know, like a blackout. It's literally blacking out your consciousness and letting something else drive it. So what's happening from an energetic standpoint is you're relinquishing control. Therefore, you're trying to take from the world outside of you to fill the void within you. And you reach for a substance, and you reach for a relationship, and you reach for that paycheck, and you reach for the better paying job, and you reach for the partner that's perfect. And I was about to say, because another side note conversation is like this whole thing where everybody's like, always says to you when you get out of a bad relationship, well, he just wasn't the right one. She just wasn't the right one. You just got to find the right person. So not only is that in our consciousness, that in the collective consciousness, that keeps us running around in these cycles too, chasing something that, I hate to say it, is mostly unrealistic for the majority of us. And that's not to say that people don't have like their perfect person, but I'm talking about from a codependent standpoint, where we expect that one person is going to fill everything and they're going to check out all the boxes, and then we want to spend all our time with them. And if they don't do something, then we're unhappy, and we don't do it because they don't let us do it. And then we give up all of our guy friends or girlfriends because they get jealous and insecure. And then we stop posting to social media, or we stop wearing makeup, or we stop working out and going to the gym, or we stop going to meetings because it doesn't, our partner doesn't like it. And then we're cutting out and, these other connections. And, age of Aquarius that's not going to work for the age of Aquarius that we're entering in. And some people believe that there's elite members of society or on the planet. Some people call them reptilians. I don't know. But, some people believe that there's like powers that be that want it that way, because if we're all have these energetic cords with one other person and our energy is being siphoned because we're giving our sexual energy away to the wrong people, then we're not in control. Not only are we not in control of ourselves, but it's easier for us to fall victim into whatever somebody else is programming for us. So we then become the worker bees of the planet, and then we do these jobs that we don't like, and then it leaves us feeling drained, and then we're chasing money and we're chasing validation. And then you wake up one day like, why am I doing all this? Like, how many times have you reached a goal that you thought would make you happy? Like, you won the perfect girl that you thought would never sleep with you, or the perfect guy that you thought you could never get, and then you get it, and like a month later you're like unhappy. And then instead of taking personal responsibility, your brain wants to understand, why are you unhappy? That was the thing that was going to make me happy. And then your brain starts to blame them and be like, well, it must be because they're not perfect, because they're not clean enough, and they're not blah, 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 and they're too nitpicky, and that's it. So we project and we blame things outside of ourselves. Therefore, it's like the age of Pisces, which is what we're in. We're giving our power away to other things. We're pulling from the outside world to try to fill an inner void. Whereas once you are able to fill the void within yourself, and you fill it with self-love, and you stop depending on things from the outside to fill you up, now you're extremely powerful. Now your auric field can be felt by the masses. Now, because when you think about it, when you're living from your heart center, your heart energy, like when you feel happy and when you feel passionate and joyful, that's why they call it mania, because you feel on fucking top of the world. Like, you can do anything, you can be anything, you can have anything. When you feel depressed, you shrink inside of yourself. You're in bed. You don't want to do anything. And you know what? That's really great. Let's just play along and act like there are elite forces. Okay. Just for fun. Because I'm pretty theatrical and, I love parody and comedy and stuff like that. So let's just, let's act like there's reptilians that run the government. Okay. And they want us all in these karmic patterns and these relationships that steal and siphon our sexual energy. So we can, be so depressed about it because it's not working out. And then we blame ourselves, and then we have depression, and then we go to the doctor, and then the doctor is like, oh yeah, that's right, you're bipolar, you're depressed, and blah, 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 and here's some medicine. So now you're a lifelong patient. And if you don't take that medicine, you're going to feel like shit. And then let's go to a therapist and talk about the same problems for 10 years. And I'm not hating on therapy, and I'm not hating on meds. So let me make that clear. I'm not. It's helpful when it's helpful. But without proper tools to deal with your karma, and without spiritual tools, it leaves a lot of people feeling still lost and still frustrated years later, when they're spending all this time and energy on money and therapy, and they're stuck in this cycle. Like, how many people do you know who are seeing a therapist on the regular, and they're taking antidepressants, and they're still sad? Why is that? If it worked, why are you still sad? And I'm sorry, I'm speaking as a passionate person who's been in that situation for years, where doctors like, something is wrong with you. And it wasn't until I just had the inspiration to stop drinking, and that was only because I met other people who had their light turned back on again. They were projecting some kind of loving energy that I knew nothing about, because I had nothing like that inside of me. And I was drawn to those people, and I was like, what are you doing? So I humbled myself, and I was like, I'm going to follow that person. I'm going to do what they are doing. I'm going to listen to them because they have what I want. It made me feel, I never felt that much better when I was seeing a therapist, especially since all they do is tell you there's something wrong with you, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with you, here's your pill, here's the pill. There's nothing more disempowering than that. It's like, well, why am I fucked up? Why did God make me this way? And then you start hating God. And God, in my experience, the people who have these mental illnesses, so-called mental illnesses, ADHD, autism, Asperger's, bipolar, borderline personality, yes, we can get crazy, okay? There can be crazy moments, but that's because we don't understand what's happening on a spiritual level, and we're not treating it maybe not in the best way. I mean, some people, they're fine and with the medication and whatever. And, you know, everybody has their own journey. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm hating on it. I'm just providing alternative ways of looking at it. And it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Like, if something does not resonate with you, if something makes you feel shitty, your body's trying to tell you something. If you don't like what a doctor is saying, if you don't like what a therapist is saying, if you don't agree with it, there's a reason for that. You are your own, you know, advocate, your best advocate for your own health. So I was not satisfied with those answers, that something is wrong with me, because I've always been, I guess, had enough of a spiritual connection that I'm like, well, you know, I trust in God. I trust that the universe made me for a reason. I trust that I'm perfect just as I am, even though I wasn't, even though I was sad. And I just kept seeking information. And, you know, I would be like drawn to, one second. Where is it? I don't know what I did with my books, but there's 2 books that changed my life. And I would, you know, every so often I go to a bookstore and I see a book that's like shining on the shelf. And one of those books was called Journey of Souls, by Michael Newton. Another one that I was inspired to read was called Many Lives, Many Masters. Another one I kept getting synchronicities about was The Secret. And it took me about 4 years until I picked up that book. And it changed my life. And I'm like, why didn't I read that like 5 years earlier? But I've always been a person that seeks out knowledge and like wants to learn more. And I'm so glad and thankful that I'm like that, because I learned so much more. And it's so valuable to provide yourself alternative explanations and different understanding of things, just so you have more tools in your toolkit. And then it gives you more power to choose what's going to be best for you, rather than relying on one person, especially with our healthcare system. I remember being on Vyvanse and being, you know, addicted to it. I needed it every day, because if I didn't take it, I felt like I got hit by a bus. And I remember running out of it on the weekend and then having to wait till Monday to get it refilled, and then not having enough money, so I can't refill it. So I feel shitty for a couple days. And it's the same thing with weed. It's like, I've been addicted to weed before too. And like, I don't have enough money for it for a couple days, so I have to go without it. And it's like hard when your body's used to it. So a lot of people experience that. So like, the most freedom I've ever gotten in my life is to like figure out, A is to seek knowledge, B is to meditate, C is to keep reading, keep learning, keep understanding about myself, 4, stop blaming other people. And my mom would tell me that all the time, like, you're blaming your problems on other people, you're blaming it on the city, you're blaming it on this, you're blaming it on that. And I couldn't hear her because I was so broken and sad inside. And I don't know, like, you know, I was activated or chosen to wake up in 2017 for whatever reason, and I think there's an astrological reason for that. So there is, because it aligns with my eclipses. There was a very significant eclipse around my degree points in my personal birth chart around like 2013, 2014, which is when I started having that first inkling of some kind of awakening. So it's almost like the universe knows. It's almost like you and your soul was very intentional about the time that you were born, because you knew that during these energetic portals you would awaken and activate. So I just love this stuff so much. I love teaching it. I love seeing the light turn on in people's eyes. You know, there's nothing that like literally kills me more than to see people struggle with like depression year after year after year, and they're spending all this money on medication and therapy, and like nothing seems to be working, or it's working, but it's just like they're not able to live their fullest life. And then they're victims of like societal programming and you know, there's a lot of deconditioning that we have to do here. And would be a benefit to you if you're one of those people who are depressed. And if you're resonating with anything that I said, to continue to seek knowledge and maybe alternative forms and understandings. Like, I know that I seem like a free spirit and like not super practical, but astrology and human design are the most practical things I've ever heard, especially when I can apply it to my own life and trace the cycles in my own life and be like, because I don't use it for predictions. I do now because it's been accurate in the past, and I always like, I never not trust it. I never like make really important decisions solely based on astrology. I use it as a guiding point, because energies, like, we never know how they're going to manifest, but it can give us a very good idea. So I use that as a general guideline, and then I allow myself a little flexibility and wiggle room to change course should I need to. But the reason I believe in astrology and human design so much and trust in it is because I can look back at, you know, phases in my life, and then it aligns with like these portals and these eclipses and stuff, and has really helped me. So I don't know how long I've been going. I hope somebody gets something out of this. Matt and I are going to be starting a more in-depth course about astrology and human design coming up in November. That's going to be during Scorpio season, so it's going to be the ideal time to purge those emotions and a lot of self-growth during November. So I'll be using, the month of October primarily to prepare for that. But I also would like to offer and extend my services to more and more people, especially during this time, since it's so, highly active, spiritually speaking. And a lot of people are struggling, and then a lot of people are doing really well. But for those people who are struggling, I'm here for you, and I want to help you understand why you're struggling, but only should you seek that knowledge, because I've learned too, and any other empaths here who are listening, like, it's not our job to do the work for anyone. It's not our job to rally clients and say, come, come, come. Like, it's our job to put it out there, and anyone who needs to hear the message, if they resonate with it, they can choose to see you, and then you can choose whether or not you want to work with them. But, like, for me, that's why I don't do, I don't know. Like, I was going to say I don't do free readings. That's not true. If somebody needs it and I'm called to do it and I feel the nudge from spirit to do it, then I, of course, will help guide that person. I'll offer, my services for free. But for the most part, when you give your services away for free, like you run free offers and stuff like that, just for anybody, you attract a lot of people who are cheap and they can't really appreciate what you're saying anyway. So I am leaning more towards donation-based readings and to do some of those here soon. So anyone who's interested in that, feel free to ask me about that, because I do, readings, and I can cater to your budget and stuff like that. So just let me know if you really are not in a space where you can afford it. I just want to make sure that I'm not being taken advantage of, and that I'm being respected too for my time and experience and expertise on these subjects. So anyways, if you watch this video, thanks for watching. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to reach out. Feel free to comment on this video. Feel free to share it if it helps you. And feel free to share ideas for new topics that you want to learn about. So I hope this helps.